I want to talk about the greatest player to ever touch a basketball.
Luka again?
No.
I'm about to leave the call.
Oh, it's not Luka.
Oh, Julius Randle.
Listen, well then let me at least congratulate the greatest.
Should have worn my Frank Ntilikina jersey.
That's a terrible jersey. That's a terrible jersey to have. You have that? You have a Frank?
I'm gonna go get it. No,
No.
I really do. Yeah, I do.
Damn.
Come on now. I bought it. That's collector edition. I bought it the next game. I'm like, yo, if he leaves, I need that Frank jersey.
What are you collecting?
Collector edition.
The Frank jersey, bro.
Oh
Come on now. He's the greatest player of all time.
Give me two like memorable Frank Ntilikina.
Okay. I actually have a theory on why I love Frank so much. Because Frank, he only, so look, like I said, I ran a Knicks page I've been running a Knicks page since I was in 2016 when I was going to ninth grade, and then the year after that, Frank got drafted. I would post the highlights of like a lot of clips during the games. I would watch every game, post the highlights. Every Frank basket is like a holiday. You only get them like once or twice every week. So that's why I love him. Because you know what I mean? If you get a Frank basket, it's a special occasion.
He's trash.
These are what PJ Tucker stands look like, bro. What the fuck? PJ Tucker hit a three. Let's go.
Basically, we know he sucks, but he sucks.
You got to go through the adversity, and then when you see him locking up, he locked up Trae Young in the summer league. Although he hit the game winner on the playoffs, but we won't talk about that. He also locked up.
Say he's just forever in a training arc. Is what I'm hearing.
He's what?
Yeah,
he's just forever in a training arc. That's
wait.
Yeah, bro. His first season, they started Jarrett Jack and Ramon Sessions over him. He was drafted with the 8th pick. It's like, what do you want more from him? So everything with him has been more special. I love Frank.
He locked up Trae,
and I met him like 4 times.
Development of outplaying 40-year-old Jarrett.
He locked up Trae in the summer league, but didn't do anything against him in the playoffs.
Oh, he dapped me up the third time I met him. I met him so. He knew who I was. I wasn't even famous yet. And he was like, oh, hey, how are you? I'm like, oh, hey, Frank, how are you doing? Like, come on, that's my guy.
Where'd you meet him? Was he out just regular style?
The first time I met him was at there's a place called Steiner Sports, and they do like autographs, and they would invite me to stuff for free. And the first time I met him was through that. The second time I met him was in front of the Knicks open practice. The third time was at another Steiner Sports thing. And it was actually a dual autograph signing with Enes Kanter. It was fantastic. That was supposed to be a joke. Come on, who would want that?
That's nasty. That's nasty.
It is nasty. And he got released the next month.
That's nasty.
And then the fourth time, I don't even. Maybe I was over exaggerating. Maybe it was just 3. So yeah, that's it.
What was he doing outside the open practice? Was he patting folks down to make sure they didn't bring anything into the stadium?
Wow.
Why, you don't think he deserves it? He's not a player. He's not.
He shouldn't be practicing.
He shouldn't be stretching. He shouldn't be. Anyway, listen, guys. The Milwaukee Bucks won the 2021 championship. Giannis is clearly the greatest player in the league. Okay, I think we can all agree to that.
Right after he was Robin.
Yeah, right after his Robin. Let me read you guys his stat line before we move on. In 6 games, 35 points, 13 boards, 5 assists, 1.2 steals, 2 blocks. I'm rounding up on 61%, 62%.
That's ridiculous.
From the field. In that final game, I think he shot 90% from the free throw line, and of course dropped a 50 ball. A 50 ball. Let me say that again. Giannis dropped a 50 ball to close it out. How are we feeling about the greatest player in the league, Giannis Antetokounmpo, winning a championship?
He earned it. He earned that title. I ain't gonna lie. Like both ways in terms of the actual championship and the title of the best player. And you know, next year can prove us wrong. We can revisit these conversations. But until that happens, Giannis is the best player in the world. I mean, it is what it is.
Damn, just double stamped off, Rip. Dang.
Yeah, that was a statement. That was like a mic drop.
I'm making TikTok clips. I don't know about
John DeMarco.
That's for the TikTok.
Oh, my bad. We're TikTok.
Yeah, that's for the TikTok. Rudy, timestamp.
The work.
You think he's better than Kevin? But on the real, you think he's better than Kevin Durant?
I have to sit down and think about it.
I hate that.
You're sitting down, B-Souls. You're sitting down.
And I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it right now. I'm thinking about it right now.
I hate that we go back and forth about the top 5 so often. Like, I don't think Giannis
so
had to
trash.
prove anything. Like even 2-3 years ago, like what did he have to prove?
That he could win.
They could win. What?
Is that it really? And I know this sounds crazy, but in a team game, do you have to be like, does that decide if you're the best player or not?
Kind of a box.
Yeah, because there's certain players who can be like greater than the team itself. Like this guy named 2018 LeBron, who had Jordan Clarkson missing mid-range shots all game.
Wow.
And he just said, yo, let me make the finals.
But even with with that being said, it looked like he lost. Like LeBron lost in 2018, but I still viewed him as the best player in the world. Like what he did transcended. So even the stuff that Giannis did 2 years ago transcended whether he won or lost. And this just, I guess, solidified it for people. But we keep going back and forth about the greatest
I know for a fact, Omar, the Atlanta Hawks winning more games and making that deep playoff push change your perception of Trae Young. You cannot tell me otherwise.
Oh no, it didn't.
You're lying.
Sage, look at this dude, bro. Look at this dude, bro.
That's literally not true. So let's move on.
We were all on locker room hearing your Trae Young slander early in the season.
No. See, people misinterpret my slander. Trae is a fine player, best point guard in the league, even some would say. But the thing is, I mean, the team was trash. Like, I don't think Trae moved up. Do you have Trae over Steph? Do you have Trae over Dame? I'm asking.
No.
Just point guards, though. But
I mean, in the point guard conversation, do you have him over Steph?
No.
Do you have him over Dame?
No.
Do you have him over Luka?
No.
So I think I've had Trae. Do you have him over Kyrie?
Debatable. That's the change right there.
I've had Trae in this 5 or 6 range like for the longest.
Yeah, but it's all about when you get to the top 20, the top 30, you get picky like that where a spot or two matters, let alone outside of just point guards. Like a year ago, if you had said Trae was better than Chris Paul or Kyrie, what do you smoke? Now you can legitimately argue that Trae's the 4th best point guard.
The other thing though is, I mean, he got older and so did they. Like he was young and got older, and they were old and got older, so they can move down. Like Chris Paul's moving.
And I think that's the problem with Giannis. Like with Giannis, people are hesitant to move him up or down. Like I said, the day that we streamed it, we streamed it. I said my chat literally 1, 4, and 5. A lot of people who said 5 already had him there. The people who moved him up 4 said, oh, yeah, he's better. He's just not top 3 yet. I need to see more. And then there were some people that went to instant 1. I rarely saw 2 and 3. That showed me that there's some people that are registering what they've seen and just running with it. They're like, there ain't no fucking way that you trying to sit here and tell me X, Y, Z could do what he just did. No. And then there's people out there that are trying to act like they need to see, and someone literally commented, a repeat performance of this. Now, I'm all for seeing resumes, seeing players do it twice, 3 times, whatever. If Giannis has a standard of averaging, 35 and 14 on insane efficiencies in the NBA Finals and has to drop a 50 bomb for you every season for you to convince yourself that he's no longer the 4th best player in basketball, you got it, my boy. You got it. I'm not lying. I have Giannis higher or lower, but that's a crazy ass standard.
But he's not a hooper.
He is not a hooper.
Bag talk. Let's get into it. I think that's my problem though, Sage. Like for those that do have Kevin Durant over him, Kevin Durant for the past 3 years hasn't done what Giannis has done. And
Which is what?
Now,
what has Giannis done?
He's definitely debatable.
Be dominant on both sides of the ball, overly dominant.
They literally played and it looked like Kevin Durant was literally a shoe size away from closing the book. Like I hate to do it. I hate to play NBA Xenoverse here, but let's imagine his foot was even one size smaller and the Nets are in the finals off of Kevin Durant having a 50-point triple-double labeled as a non-playmaker.
Yeah, we would not be having these conversations.
But even then to me, it's still like, okay, that's fine about Kevin Durant. When I'm looking at dominance on offense and defense.
Nah, I'll give you credit on that.
I'm looking at dominance on offense and defense, and nobody's done what Giannis has done.
I agree with that point. I'm a firm believer, and I'll die on this hill. I don't care how hot take he is, but it shouldn't be a hot take. Anthony Davis, Joel Embiid, the only two players you can even fathom doing what Giannis did in Game 6, let alone for this entire playoff run. There's only two. Look, you love LeBron. LeBron not going out there to give you 50 and 5 blocks. LeBron hasn't dropped 50 in 3 years. LeBron hasn't had 50 and 10 in 3.5. LeBron hasn't had 50, 10, and 5 blocks ever.
He's a bitch.
Oh wow. Okay.
My bad.
I thought that's where the vibes are going.
Clip? Is a TikTok clip?
Yeah, Rudy, clip that. Rudy. No, I thought that's what you're saying.
I thought that's where the vibes were going, man.
And the bait worked. You can check the chat. Someone's gonna say Kawhi. Now Kawhi hasn't had 50. Kawhi hasn't had 50 in, I think, what was it, 3? Kawhi had like 45 and 11 in 2019.
Has Kawhi ever had 50?
And he didn't have 5.
Yeah, Kawhi don't be scoring 50.
It like people are going out of their way to try to name the players that can do it. And I'm like, one, that's disrespectful. Because you're trying to act like people could casually do it, and they can't. So the only players in history that come to my mind, and I even tried to do some research, and a lot of names that I thought could do it haven't. But the only 3 players that I saw pulled it off, and I didn't even do enough research to see if it was in the finals, was Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, and Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan.
And the answer is no to the finals part. But.
By the way, the answer is no in the finals. Thank you. Pardon me. If we're going to compare Giannis Antetokounmpo to a prime Tim Duncan, Michael Jordan, and Hakeem Olajuwon. So then let me ask you that. What is a prime Tim Duncan, Hakeem Olajuwon, and Michael Jordan in the league today? You would say that's the best player in basketball right now, unless you just crazy love Braun or something at that point. I'm not going to lie. And
they do.
It's just disrespectful in my opinion. So that's why I'm like, look, say like the people that are on people's heads for saying Giannis is the best player in the world, save it, because it's the top 5 in my opinion is so interchangeable. Like I can tell you, like Steph Curry.
I agree on that, bro. It is the most interchangeable I've ever seen it.
Steph Curry is under the radar now. Another popular name, Kawhi Leonard. I'll say this, and this will be my one leak, so I don't have to hold the pod back entirely. I think there's no way that you could argue Kawhi is number 1. I think there's one person in the top 5 you have to ridicule from being number 1. I think Kawhi is the hardest to argue is number 1. If you do the two-way thing, okay, there's Giannis. If you do the offensive impact thing, okay, there's Curry, LeBron, and Kevin Durant. I don't think you can argue that Kawhi is such a mix of the two that he is better than all of those other 4 players. I think that is the hardest one to push. Kevin Durant, you can obviously make the argument. LeBron James, you could obviously make the argument. Stephen Curry, even you could make an argument, but he's the biggest one where like you gotta see it to say it, in my opinion.
Julius Randle?
No.
Y'all gonna hate.
Kudos to you. How did you look so disappointed?
Y'all gonna hate until we prove it, I guess, huh?
Yeah, we talk about the top 5 clicks. Like, man, I just want to make the second round, bro. Crazy.
I don't really care. I don't really care about any of this. That's the issue. I couldn't care less who's top 5. My theory about all this I know it's like topics, whatever, but my theory about all the like top stuff is like, okay, well, one game. No, it's not really a theory. It's just a fact. One game, Luka, boom, he's like top whatever the hell. One game he could drop 40 against Joel Embiid, but one game Joel Embiid could drop 40 and Luka drops 10, or vice versa. Like I don't really like. It's just about the consistency of it.
Man,
and I think I would say as of right now that Durant's probably the one I would rely on most to be the most consistent. And I still wouldn't count out. I wouldn't count out Braun. I mean, I know he was trash, but I'm saying if he's healthy, if he's very healthy and he's not, I don't know. It's tough to gauge because I think people are just instantly saying, "Oh, Braun's not that good anymore." Yeah. But we don't know if it was because he was injured or because he was old. So we need to see once he's healthy. If it was because he's old or because he's injured or he's just washed, I don't know. But he obviously is not washed, but you know.
But also, you brought it up with it just kind of reminded me of James Harden's run, like this season. Like I remember that stretch where James Harden was going crazy on the Nets, and and people were like, "Yeah, James Harden's the MVP, top 3 in the league, the best James in the league." You know what I'm saying? But now I sort of I'm making King James. But I sort of
James is now Middleton.
Damn.
What?
His name is James.
Oh
All right.
His name is James Christian Middleton.
my!
That's Cash Money King
What the
James,
fuck?
Cash Money Chris. Come on now, that's the best James. You ever seen them Kobe fadeaways he was hitting?
Another James in the league.
No, but I'm making my top 50 list right now, and and it's crazy, but you can legitimately argue that James Harden isn't even top 10.
Top 10.
You'd be pushing it, but like you can put him at like 10, 9 or 10. And what my point is, literally a couple months ago, we were arguing that he's arguably 1, maybe 2, maybe 3. And I heard we can argue that he's 8 or 9.
Anybody that tries to cap and say that there wasn't a point in time where people were asking if James Harden was the best player in basketball, they're cap.
There's a point where everybody's the best player in basketball at this point.
But see, that's the problem.
Yo, you the best.
That's the problem because Dame
so picky. Like, I don't know when it happened, but the community, I love the community, by the way, but
this is a recent thing, Sage. This is a recent thing.
Yeah, if there's one thing I gotta say that I'm not liking, I don't like this culture. You can't make anybody happy. I don't like this culture of game by game we're changing the rankings like crazy. Like, I'm talking D-Book will be better than D-Bench on a Sunday, and on Thursday night he goes 8 of 22. And told y'all D-Mitch was better, bro. Like, it's wild. Or if we have to use players that aren't even that close, Steph and Dame, dear God, it's every month that one Dame game. It's like, ooh,
Dame will have a February. He'll have a February that looks phenomenal.
Like,
and then people will say, oh my God, now y'all know if we switched Dame for Steph, nothing would change.
Every time. And
I be saying it'd be me.
And let it be 2. Oh yeah, that's the best point guard in the league. Simple. It's pretty fucking annoying. But
I'm looking at Giannis's past 3 years, bro, and it's the same. Like, it's very consistent. You know what you're getting from Giannis offensively and defensively. And my question to anybody out there that would be like, oh, well, he's clearly not top, Steph Curry, all this stuff like this. Like, what more can Giannis do? And if you say jump shot, stop talking to me about basketball. Like, if that's your argument as to why he can't be the best basketball player in the world is because of jump shot, don't talk to me about basketball ever again.
I would 100% agree. Anybody that's hindering Giannis because he no shoot, he no tween,
his effort actually gives him like a wild boost. Like, if you watch him during the games, it could be quarter 3. He hasn't sat a minute and he will be running up and down and up and down. That genuinely gives him a wild boost, and his rim protection is crazy.
And I've honestly, the more I view that situation, Omar and Click, and I honestly be so much your opinion on this, I'm starting to be like, yo, if Giannis is simply a run and dunk man, let's go with their opinion that he no shoot, he sucked, he's trash. If he's just run and dunk, but he's capable of dropping 50 on you by doing it, and you have to make a team constructed to stop him from running and dunking, or he will drop 50 on you in the finals, would you, by virtue, have to default be at least number 2? Because
he's not even number 2 to people.
I have him number 2 or number 1 even. But I'm saying if everyone in the league has to make sure, hey, in case we run into run and dunk man, we have to have somebody that can stop him. Because we can't stop him. It's no matter what we do on the offensive end, he's going to do whatever he wants whenever he wants.
This is literally the only era in basketball I remember where there's so, and I kind of get it, but there's so much emphasis on offensive versatility. But in decades past, this was never the case. Like, there's a reason why Shaq was unanimously the best player in the world in the early 2000s, even though you could argue Kobe was more versatile, more skilled, T-Mac, Allen Iverson. There's a reason why Shaq was the best player back then. Even let's go back to the 70s with Kareem. Like, you can make an argument that fucking like Pete Maravich was more skilled than him, but if we're just talking about pure output and what you bring to the game, this is the only era that's ever been the case.
This goes back to my theory about the Warriors ruining basketball. The Warriors
I go a bit further than the Warriors, man. This is gonna be unpopular, You could pin that more so on LeBron and the Warriors.
All right, bro. What's the next topic?
LeBron and Kobe, actually. Hear me out. Prime Dwight Howard was never seen as the best player in basketball. Why was that? Because you had Kobe Bryant and LeBron James just existing. Dwight Howard, a lot of people don't even know Dwight Howard was second place for MVP, I think twice. Like Dwight Howard was a perennial DPOY. People were out there. It's crazy when you look at Dwight Howard's career and then look at the headline, is he a Hall of Famer?
Yeah, I don't think anybody would have brain questions that one though.
That's where I think things started to shift.
It's 4 DPOIs.
4 defensive player of the year, several block time. Like
Sage, that's this
got funnies.
First of all, let me say this. That's this generation that even takes the time out to go back, pick X player and say, was he really good? Was he really a Hall of Famer? Is he going to be a Hall of Famer? That's this generation that does that. I don't even think that, look, Dwight could never be the best player in the league because LeBron and Kobe were in the league.
So he never got the attention and you never saw how impactful Dwight.
But I'm saying he was never going to be the best player. He couldn't be because he wasn't. Like he even with his
work ethic was shady anyway.
No, not even that. I mean, he just couldn't be like LeBron was in the league. He couldn't be the best player in the league. So I think that's different than what we're seeing right now, where it changes every 2 days. Because even back then, if it did change, it was LeBron or Kobe. But once it became LeBron, it stuck with LeBron for a long time. Person that might have said like salty Lakers fans. But when it was Kobe, it was Kobe. When it was Tim, it was Tim. When it was Shaq, it was Shaq. There was no every day I'm going back and forth. But it seems like every single day, like we said, somebody
Vince Carter.
Somebody new is the best player in the league or whatever the case may be. And people are trying to dissect and belittle folks and everything like that. Like nobody would ever back then say to themselves, boy, LaMarcus Aldridge is going crazy this month. Is he the best player in the league?
Right. Like LaMarcus Aldridge was out here. For those of you that don't know how cold
and LaMarcus Rocket series.
Man,
he gave Dwight.
I'm not gonna lie. He gave Dwight and Terrence Jones some problems.
Man,
I'm not gonna lie.
I'm putting them in a Spurs jersey. Put that man in a Blazer. Man, do y'all know how cold Aldridge just casually 50 and 13 all mid range?
But nobody's saying after that. Oh, is he the best player in the league?
Like, is he better than Anthony Davis?
Like, nobody's doing that.
Nobody was doing that, bro. I don't know when it started. I 100% agree. I don't know. And just
back to the offensive versatility point you had said. I think you said that people you've never seen a league so critical or so judgmental of offensive versatility or having that be such a big factor in how you rank players. I think it's because of how back in the like when you said Shaq, you go, okay, bet Shaq's the best player in the league because he's the most dominant. Then you said that and then like also going back even further, Wilt obviously most dominant. And then Mike's a little bit of a variable because Mike was just different, but it was always big man or, Kareem just hooked it over you for 20 years and that was raps. Like he did nothing else but a sky hook. You couldn't stop it. And that was it. I think I think it's because, and it's obviously not, it's not really something, maybe analytically, I don't know, but, or statistically, but I don't know if this is proven, but like, I think we know good and well that the league is more talented now than it's ever been. I think it's just the fact that, okay, so you go back to Wilt's days, obviously there's no 3-point line, but who was shooting from the perimeter? Bob Cousy, 37% shooting self. Like, there's more people that are actually good at doing that now. There's Kevin, there's Luka, there's Harden, there's, obviously Bron even in there. And then even if you go back a few years, Melo, Kobe, Dirk, there's more people who are able to do that to where it became more of a factor because it's such a go-to in basketball as to when back then it was like, all right, we got nothing else better to do than just give it close to the basket as possible. So I think that's when it comes in. It's like, okay, well, we've been seeing Kobe shoot fadeaways and he can hit those. So like, okay, now we're going to go back to Giannis just going around the basket. And then he also doesn't really hit free throws a lot of the time. Like, it's like, I'd rather just a bucket.
I agree with everything he just said because that was one of my arguments. I think the reason why Giannis do generate so much hate is because it took us so long as a league to zig into this pick and roll where the guard can take advantage era. We're not dumping it down to the big era. It took us so long to get here and we finally broke through. that when Giannis comes through and zags it back to like, nah, bro, we
Give
in
me the
here.
ball in the paint. Post me up.
DeAndre Ayton is about to hate me. Like when people see that, they're like, oh hell no. So especially like the CJ McCollums and Spencer Dinwiddie's, because that's how they making their money. That's how they making their bread. I don't know if anybody's seen this tweet that I made. It was really literally after I heard Gilbert Arenas talk about. Gilbert Arenas was talking about his first year in the league, and he was talking about how he ran a 1-4 flat, so a pick and roll with the power forward, which was Derek Coleman at the time, I believe, and he got the switch. And the big man was on him, and Derek Coleman was trying to post up Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson, a bigger guard or whatever. But so he called ISO right after that, and the coach calls a timeout. And he's like, what are you doing, dog? What are you doing? He said, well, that's not the mismatch. I got the mismatch. They go back and forth for a little bit, and then he sits him on a bench. He brings him back into the game, and he's like, all right, I'm just going to do it. Same situation happens. Throws it into the post. He gets doubled. Derek Coleman kicks it out to the corner. It's a non-shooter. It comes back up to Gilbert Arenas, and it's whatever. And we've had to fight so hard, as like an NBA community or whatever, to get to this point where Gilbert Arenas can take the 4-man off the dribble. Yeah. That it's just so hard to comprehend that we would go back to that. But my other theory is, and I'm gonna wrap it, but my other theory is the reason why that was the case though is because Gilbert Arenas' coach at the time was Celtics legend Dave Cowens from the 1970s. Mm-hmm. So yeah, what is he's not thinking like, yeah, Bob Cousy or whoever his point guard was at the time. Yeah, you're about to isolate. He's thinking, get me, Dave Cowens, MVP of 1973 NBA season, get me the fucking ball in the post. Yeah, and that's the way that old basketball is thinking. Mm-hmm. But they're afraid of Giannis.
The team has one shooter. That shooter is not on the court. Give Coleman the ball. I want to say this, and honestly, I hate to admit, but it got my interest. This is a first take Max Kellerman take. I just want to see what y'all think about this.
Oh man, that's what the fuck.
Awful way to preface it.
Interesting. It's actually interesting. Is this low key the era of bigs?
No. Honestly, I was just about to say. Wait. I'm actually going to build off with a point I just had. I was thinking about. Like when we were talking about how the bigs died down, the way that I seen that, I think, can we agree that was probably Giannis's best game yesterday?
Yeah, I think so.
I have never seen someone, especially that late in the game, when that's all he's really doing, or at least that's his goal is to get to the basket. I've never seen anybody just get around there and just throw it down, whether it's around people, over people, like consecutively multiple times in the fourth quarter, so many times. I've always considered him, like, obviously he's not no parallel, but in the context of this league, like this generation's Shaq in a way. Like, obviously, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. Yeah. But when it comes to watching him now, watching Embiid, watching Jokic, who even play, Jokic is a little more even different. I would even say that up until this, obviously now Giannis has proven himself. I would say even maybe, which this doesn't really sound too groundbreaking. Like I would maybe even pick Jokic to lead my team over all these other big men because of the fact that he can facilitate and he works in a league that we're in like right now. And he just like fits that mold. But now that we're seeing this type of stuff, and the reason why the league, I think, went away so much is because I was even watching the video that I had posted on my channel back in like 2015, and it was ranking the top bigs in the league. And it was Mark Gasol, Boogie, Mark Gasol. Now here's the thing. Andre Drummond, Marc Gasol, Boogie. I think I had DeAndre Jordan in there.
Hell no.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
DeAndre Jordan was the best center in basketball.
He made All NBA first team.
Yeah, he did.
2 years, bro. DeAndre Jordan was seen as the best center in basketball.
All he did was catch lobs. That whole era died down. All the big, even during the Dwight Howard era, there wasn't many. It was just him. It was just, you know what I mean? Like, so like that whole era of big men, what's it called? Just completely went away for all these years. And whether it was coincidence or not, like whether it was that, we pushed out the players, like maybe Jahlil Okafor, greatest big man of all time. He played in 1992.
I ain't gonna lie,
But
I believed in Jaleel. I believed in Jaleel. I ain't
Me
gonna
So
too,
did
bro.
I.
I ain't gonna lie. I was more of a Jalil guy than a cat
Crazy.
guy. I ain't gonna lie, bro.
But whether or not it was by the force or by just, you know what I mean, maybe Jaleel actually wasn't that good. Whether it was by that or not, whether the league was just thought it was going in a different direction, and now players that are this good, like Embiid, Giannis, Jokic, have forced the league back into the way that it is right now, or at least it seems to be, where a guy who's just dunking the ball all game just won the championship. What's it called? The league, it's so weird to watch it now because of the way that, like you just said, with LeBron and Kobe being better than Dwight Howard, how we watched from like 03, 04, when Shaq basically, when he went to the Heat, got injured a little bit and won another champion, whatever. When Shaq had left, we saw Dwight a little bit. We saw some Boogie, but all of these years, and we saw some post up LaMarcus Aldridge, some Dirk, you know what I mean? But all of these years, there has been no person that's out here dominating, and that's a couple people that's dominating like how Shaq was dominating. You know what I mean? Jokic was the first MVP since Shaq. You got Embiid, who draws all the Hakeem comparisons, and you got Giannis, who's Giannis.